Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everyone's a special guest because they take time to join me on the show. I'm joined by Mussadiq. Now, this gentleman is a Mason alum, so we got that in connection, and he's doing great work just on his own to support Mason students with their journeys and careers and background in IT and cybersecurity. Not because he has to. He's not a recruiter or anything. He's just doing this because he wants to make sure that the next generation is prepared. And so I thought that was great, and I wanted to definitely have him on this podcast. So, Mussadiq, tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, Phil. It's great to be here. We worked in the past for about, 5-6 months, and we've done a few events already. So, about me, I'm a cybersecurity specialist with Maximus, and my day-to-day is just, looking at incidents. But in my free time, I am helping the community any way I can, whether it's through workshops, info sessions, or even networking events that we did together too. So that's a bit about me. That's what I do in my free time, and
Yeah, I love it. And so you got this job. Are you a local guy? You went to high school around here, and tell us a little bit about your college journey.
Yeah, I went to school not too far from here, high school, middle school, in Falls Church. I went to Jeb Stewart, now it's called Justice.
Oh, yeah, we punish y'all in sports there.
Yeah. So I did sports there. I did golf and track. Then I went to Nova, and then from there I came to Mason. So I was in a pathway program, which was great for, they did career advising, how I can get to Mason quicker, and, just full access. I got a scholarship through them, and then came to Mason. It was, pretty much covered. I didn't have to worry about all of that. Came to Mason, completed my education. After that, I started applying to jobs, and that's where kind of the process started of me getting the job, and then kind of giving back to the community as well. So that's a bit about me.
That's your career journey. So you said you're a local guy. You went to Jeb Stewart, Justice, and you're in this IT field. Were you ever exposed early that you start doing IT stuff? I know sometimes they have coding classes in high school and all that stuff. Or tell us a little about your journey and getting exposure to technology.
Yeah, I've always been a tech guy. I started with math and tech. Those were two of my main things.
Yeah.
So in high school, I did intro to CS, right? And then big in math, I did. Math always just came to me in a kind of way. So after that, I went to Nova. I started with CS, and I did math. So I graduated with a degree in associates in math and computer science.
Yeah.
And then when I came to Mason, I was like, well, do I really want to do CS? It just wasn't clicking for me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I switched to cybersecurity when I came to Mason. So it was a complete shift. So I started taking cybersecurity classes here. And then once I graduated, I did an internship, and then from there, the internship was not cybersecurity related.
Okay.
But I was able to pivot into cybersecurity just based off of what I did outside the internship. So ended up getting a full-time offer with Maximus, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, I really like to dive in because it's really interesting, math and all that, and I think STEM. And it's so wide. And so, when you said you like math, my son likes math. He watches, he's now into chess and all that stuff. Was it just click that your parents, got math brains, or, I don't know, man. Math was never mathing for me. How was it clicking for you?
So I think for me, it was just the upbringing. I grew up in Pakistan, not here.
Okay,
And we started Algebra 1 in second grade.
See, okay.
Right?
Algebra 1 in second grade?
Yeah. So I was there until sixth grade, and I was already ahead of everybody when I moved here, I was already ahead of, everybody who was in class with me. But when I started here, I didn't know like the system or anything like that. So they just put me in math 6, right?
Oh, dang. Look, so when you
So
got here in middle school, right?
yeah,
And you had already taken algebra 1.
yeah,
Wow.
I was doing algebra 2 there
Yo, yo.
when I moved here, and I was put in 6th grade, and I was doing like basic 6th grade math. Like
You didn't want to say nothing? You just kind of just crushed it?
I didn't know. I just thought it was like the regular process, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I started in 6th grade, and then you know, before the teacher's even done writing the question, I'm like done.
Answer.
You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
and
yo.
my teacher noticed. I remember the 6th grade teacher.
Yes.
You know, she was like, "What are you doing in this class?" Right. So it
Yeah.
was from there on. It was always like, "What are you doing in this class?"
I love that. I
You
love
know.
that.
So it was 6th grade math, and then I was always the first one to raise my hand. I was like, "Hey, this is the answer." Then went to 7th grade math, and then from 7th grade I went to 8th grade math, and it was not algebra 1 still. So one day I'm walking in the hallway and I run into my math 7 you know,
Teacher.
professor at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Well, how's algebra 1 going?" I was like, "Well, I'm not in algebra 1. They put me in math 8." And he was like, "I recommended you for algebra 1." And I was like, "Well, it didn't work out." And he was like, "Well, you should have told them you want to be in algebra 1." I was like, I didn't even know I could do that, right? So
Yeah.
um later on I told my brother, I was like, "Tell them you want to be in algebra 1 now. Like you can
Yes.
actually put yourself in algebra 1."
Yeah.
So he actually started off early before me. So well, I was in math 8 and I was gone for like a month and a half, and I
Yeah.
came back. My teacher was like, "Well, I gave you an A for the semester because I knew you would have gotten an A."
Yeah. I love that.
So
And so it's almost like that advocacy, and like I'll be honest, like this is really hitting home because my son, he's in 5th grade right now, and there's a huge discussion about exposure to algebra 1, and he's eligible for algebra 1 in 6th grade, but there's not that many teachers that teach it, and it's a big deal for Fairfax County that have certain schools that have algebra 1 teachers, but then a lot of people are like, oh no, like, is it too early to expose them to algebra 1? But I'm like, if they like math, why not? Like, I'm on team, let them figure it out. If they're
yeah,
good, try it. What's the worst case? Some people are like, well, it might be too early. So like, to this example, and this is your life experience, by the time you finished high school, where were you at in math? Were you like calculus or something?
no, so it was like pre-calc.
Yeah.
So I mean, even that class, like
Yeah.
the professor would be going over the lecture for the day, and then he
Yeah.
would hand out the assignment for the week, right? Like it was a packet,
Yes.
and I would be through the packet by the time he's done with the lecture for the whole week. And
Yes.
I think that's just where I was.
You were just there.
And
Yeah.
then from there, I went to Nova,
Yes.
and I was doing CS, and then I was taking math classes, and my professor was like, "Well, no, actually, my advisor. I went to my advisor, and I was like, you know, I think I want to take more math. I don't want to take it at Mason. I have time right now. I can get it done. Like I could
Yes.
take 2, 3 math classes in a semester and be done with it, right?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, have you ever thought about just declaring for a math major because, you know, the math you're gonna take, you can end up with another associate's degree." I was
Yes.
like, "Well, I didn't know that." So
Yes.
then,
All this, like, I don't know.
right?
And it's true. Like, it's not known. You just
It
like,
was just a conversation. I
yeah.
just went. I was like, well, you know, like I looked at Mason's
Yeah.
syllabus, and you know, I can just take that math right now. I have extra time here. She was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll declare you a math major. So I did that, and I did the math, right. But when I came to Mason, I had to switch majors. So
Yes.
I went from, you know, CS to IT,
Yep.
and then I concentrated in cybersecurity, right.
Yeah.
So I had to take like one math class here, which was discrete structures, which is
Yeah.
discrete math, and I'd already taken it, so it just didn't translate properly because it was just two different. I don't know what the process was
Yeah.
behind it, but you know, a lot of people were struggling with that class, and I was I didn't really struggle,
Yeah. It's
right?
natural. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually helping like some of my classmates and some of my friends like who we were taking at the same time. I was like, well, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this, right? So, a lot of logic stuff, right? If else,
Yeah.
that type of stuff, and you know, we did that in CS, we did that in math, so it was like all like
It's all lumped
together,
together. It's
right?
interdisciplinary.
Yeah, so it was easy. It just kind of came to me. I got an A in that class. A lot of people struggle. I mean, when I took it, everybody was like, "Well, we always flunk out of this class," or like, "We
Yeah.
fail it." It's like one
Yeah.
of those courses, right? But it was easy for me. I hope, you know, I
Yeah.
helped other students with me to pass that class. So it was from there. Went through the the IT route, did CS, and I mean, finished off concentration
Cyber.
cybersecurity.
Yeah, and I heard about this vibe, right? I'm not from the engineering background. All my things I've learned, I just regurgitated from people. I didn't even know like front end and back end and full stack till like 2 weeks ago, where I just asked someone. So you can really do a lot with technology. And there's three. Now I was really diving in. There's like information technology, like big buckets. There's computer science, that's a big bucket. There's computer engineering, that's a big bucket, and then I guess cybersecurity. So these are all big buckets, and they're very distinct. From the outside, we're just saying tech, tech and engineering, right? And if you really, I work here now. I'm like, no, engineering can be broken down, mechanical, civil, all this. So for the layman's term, for the general public that just sees it all lumped together, what would be your? Because you made that decision. What would be your? How would you distinguish between computer science, information technology, and cybersecurity? Because you had to make that choice, which one you vibe with. And talk us through that process when you see it all lumped together. Why did you decide to go the cybersecurity route?
So for me, CS just wasn't
Yeah.
what I saw myself doing. Right, it was a lot of sitting there coding, which
Okay.
now I'm perfectly fine with doing. Right.
Yeah.
But back then it was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this. Right. And then I went to IT route, and everything in IT, like the classes I started taking those, it just started clicking for me. Right. IT, it was hardware. I started building a computer. Like, a lot of people, they build a computer early on. And I built it in like 6th grade. So like, I went to Micro Center, bought some parts, put a computer together. Right. So that kind of gave me the hardware knowledge. And then from
Hardware.
there,
Okay. Yeah. All
so
right.
there's hardware part of things, right?
Yep.
Which is a huge industry now.
Yeah.
I'll get to that,
Chips.
right?
Microchips. Fans. Coolants. All,
Yep.
See, I can nerd out a little bit, but I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. But yeah, like that's the hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And then I got into like, when I got to the cybersecurity classes is when it was like, okay, like this, I'm liking this information, right? Because there's a huge bucket. It's like cybersecurity,
Yep.
and then it breaks down, and that's why like I do those info sessions, is like giving people information
It's a
about
bucket. Yeah.
what is out there. Because when we think about cybersecurity, a lot of times when people are not familiar or they're trying to break into the industry, they think about those early career roles, which is like a SOC analyst,
Yeah.
or just a cybersecurity analyst, or some like along those lines, right?
And real quick, when I think of cybersecurity off the break, I think of vulnerabilities and like people getting hacked because the word security. And then I think about like when we think about defense, like I'm thinking about like the new information war is like, like we're not just fighting with guns and stuff. We're fighting with information and how you protect people's data and stuff. That's what I think is that. I don't know. It's probably, like I said, very blanketed, but that's the perception I have.
Yeah, so like it breaks down in like protecting the data, right? Like
Yeah.
the triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Yep.
That's the triad. So like if one of those is compromised, it's like but in cybersecurity, I mean, there's multiple roads you could go down. Engineering, and there's multiple engineers you could get into, right? So there's like tools, or just systems, right? And then from there's identity and access management, which is you're protecting the identity. You're making sure that nobody can like. So Mason has Duo, which you use to like log into different things.
Two-factor authentication,
Right.
Authorization. Yeah.
Yeah. So you use that to the system knows that you're who you say you are, right?
Yeah.
So there's somebody sitting behind a computer who's configuring all of that.
Yeah.
So your token is associated with your account.
Yep.
And when you sign in, it sends the token to your phone to confirm. So
Yes.
there's that. There's what I do is security operations center. There's incident response. So if something happens, they're the ones to like step up. So what we do is very reactive.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
and then in that environment alone, there's multiple roles, right? So there's engineering.
Yep.
There's incident response, forensics, right? There's like ISO roles. So it's all like,
It's a wide world, and you were exposed to that world, and that was more exciting than the coding.
yeah. So actually, I wasn't exposed to that. So I did my coursework. I was like, well, I love this, right?
Yeah.
So I graduated, and I was lost. That's kind of where like everything started. I was lost. I was like, what do I do now? Like,
Okay.
I don't know what roles are out there for me, right?
Yes.
So I went to Mason during COVID, so there
Yes.
wasn't much of interaction. So we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
Classes are online, so you're not getting the one-on-one with the professor or
Yeah.
even other students, where you're not building those connections. So
Yeah.
me, I was kind of lost, but there were some people that I knew in the industry.
Yes.
They were like, well, you should look at this, you should look at this. But there was a lot of information, right? And now this is gonna be like a story. So
I
we're
love
like,
this.
you know,
Yeah,
like
keep
where like Mason kind of came in, and then
Yeah.
from there, like where I like branched out. So here's how everything started. So I graduated, lost, right? Some of my friends were like, well, you definitely need to get Security Plus. So
Okay.
Security Plus is a cybersecurity
Yeah.
certification. Very
Comp was it comp?
yeah,
TI?
CompTIA. Everybody knows about this now,
Yeah.
right?
Like I said, once you be hearing these things, I don't even know nothing about it, but these are
Yeah.
the buzzwords. Like you see it on the resume. So like
Yeah.
your boy told you get one.
He was like, well, you should get one. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm getting my degree. I don't need a
Okay,
certification, right?
Yeah, there it is.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
I graduate and I was like, oh, maybe I do need the certification,
Yes.
right? So I started studying for my Security Plus. I
Yep.
got my Security Plus. I got my, AWS certification, and I got the Okta certification, which gave
Yeah.
me like, these all kind of like tied together, where you have the identity. So Okta was identity
Yep.
access management, where I think a lot of companies use it. I don't know if Mason uses it, but then there was the cloud security aspect of
Yes.
it, and then understanding like security is general. So combining those, I put those on my resume, and then from there. But what came before that was I completely lost. There was I started attending as a graduate, like I already graduated. So
Yes.
I went on Handshake. There was an event by Booz Allen.
Yes.
So I joined that event, and it was like one of the
And when you say join it was like a virtual event?
yeah, it was a virtual
Okay.
event, right? I could do it from my home, so I was
Yeah.
like, well, like while I job search, I joined it, and there was a person in there. He was like, well, connect with me on LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
And this is where like the LinkedIn comes in
Yeah.
too. So he was like, well, connect with me on LinkedIn. So I connected, and then I think like a month went by, and I was like, well, I'm still lost, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should reach out to him and ask him like what should I do, because
Yeah.
he's in the industry. Well, he wasn't in cybersecurity. He was just in the
Just
he
in
works
tech
for-
in general?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
right.
So I mean,
he was
so and I'm just saying real quick, and I love your story. So that means is like you didn't have to hyper focus and say, I'm only talking to, cybersecurity. You were like, let me just get feelers in the whole tech space when you were doing your informational interview. Because you said like you wasn't that, but you still thought it was a valuable connection.
yeah. So I was like, well, I don't know anybody like that. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, maybe if I reach out to him, I can maybe just pick his brain or something.
Yep, 100%.
And before that, right, I was very hesitant to reach out to people. And I think that kind of comes from like cultural background and
Yeah.
how you brought up. You're just
Yeah.
very independent. You're like, I don't want anybody's help, right? But I was like, well, it won't hurt to reach out to him.
Yep.
Worst case, he just says no, right?
Or ghost you, yeah. for
So
sure.
I reached out, and he was like, next thing he said was, email me your resume at this email. That's it. That's all he said.
You got to be
So-
ready. Stay ready to get
yeah.
ready. Like-
So I sent him my resume,
yeah.
and then I sent him a message. I was like, hey, I sent the
Yeah, followed up.
resume
Yeah,
just
yeah.
in case it hits your spam box or something, right? Just to confirm that I sent the resume,
Yeah.
and he can look out for it, right?
Yeah.
So I sent the resume, and then like this was like Monday, and I remember this like
Yeah.
word for word, because this comes back like again and again, right? So Monday I sent this out. Comes Friday, I'm like, I haven't heard anything back, so I reach out to him. I'm like, hey, I haven't heard anything back. Do you have like any feedback for me or anything like that? He's like, I'm talking to somebody over the weekend. Look out for my email, and if they're okay, look out for my email on next week.
Like a little introduction thing. Gotcha.
Yeah. So Monday comes around, I get an email, and it's him, me, and another person in that email, and that person at the time worked at Accenture.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I look him up, and he's like a senior manager. I was like, this is already beyond like what I was expecting, right?
Yeah, titles. Let me rephrase. I mean, I think that's a lot of, well, one, did this Booz Allen person have like a Mason connection? Or was it? The only reason why I say that is because like I could see that being intimidating, like titles and stuff, right? Now you realize you're in those rooms like, oh, it's just a person. Yeah, okay, VP or so what? All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But you're seeing, initially that could have been intimidating. Like you're seeing, oh my God, senior manager. So yeah, talk a little bit about that when you've seen these titles and stuff.
Yeah, I was like, well, senior man, he probably doesn't have time for me, right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
wasn't even, so I was like, oh,
Negative
I'll introduce
dialogue.
myself,
Yeah.
but you know, like I'm not expecting anything. So I introduced myself, and I was like, well, he was like, well, you two take it from here, and then he just saw himself out of the conversation,
Right.
which like you see a lot of people, they make the introduction, they're like, they don't want, they're like,
Yeah, I'm done.
you know,
I
like
don't want to be
this
spam.
is it, this
Say,
is it, right?
put me in the BCC, man. I be
Yeah,
doing that
he's
John too.
like,
Like,
you know,
I don't want to hear this no more. Like, I did my job. Yeah.
And I realized after, like, a lot of the community is like, they make the introduction and they're like,
Yeah.
you to take it from here, right? So he made the introduction, saw himself out, and then I talked to the person from Accenture, and he was like, I emailed him like a lengthy email. I was like, hey, this, you know,
Yeah,
I
right.
laid it all out for him. And at the time, at this time, I already had my Security Plus, and I was still job hunting. I was applying regularly, right?
Yep.
And I had a few interviews coming up right after
Yeah.
this, right? So like I email him, and he's like, let's get on a call,
There you
right? And I was like, get on a call. Like I wasn't even expecting like an email back, just let alone like get on a call. So like we get on a call, and
And a Zoom call or a phone call?
it was a Zoom call.
So it's like, so these are a lot of things. I'm just gonna, you know, go and jump in a little bit on your story. So one, in my thought, right, you introduce yourself, so that's cool. Two, you had to have your resume ready. Like,
yeah, it was.
if
it
the
was
guy
ready.
said send it to me tomorrow and you didn't have it ready or it was trash,
Yeah.
there's one. And then two, like this modality, let's jump on a call. I think you know, I got to make sure I'm presentable or
Yeah.
like, you know, have a nice Zoom. So all these things was almost like just in the queue, be ready, right?
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
No, and I was ready, right? So
Yeah.
like, so the internship I mentioned, it was like it was, as long as I wanted the internship, it was there for me, but I didn't see growth in there, right?
Yeah.
And so I quit.
Yeah.
But I knew what I was capable of.
Yes.
I believed in myself.
Yes.
So like I spent the next 3 months just I'll wake up, 20 applications, resume, like clean up, like let's say like, you know, I filled out that many applications in like a month. I haven't heard anything back. That means it's my resume. Fix up my resume, try
Yeah.
something new.
Yep.
And I was doing interview prep at the time, and I was studying for my Security Plus and these certifications.
So your
right?
job was to get a job, and you were putting systems in place, like
Yeah.
studying, networking. You were making your job at that time get a job, and you were doing it in a structured way, which I love that because I always tell people, like, to get a job, getting a job is a job, and you have to be organized. Like, you can't just be like, I'm gonna wake up all day, and it's not sustainable. Like, you don't want to like just do applications all day. So like, have certain days designated. I usually tell them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's just for me, but like, search a job, apply, but then set up phone calls, and you have like a little bit of break and coffee chats and all that stuff. But you made it like a full day where you're like, if I'm gonna be, not say unemployed, but if I'm unemployed, at least I feel like I'm structured and
Yeah.
it's purposeful and it's organized. So I love that you're
Because you start to
doing it.
lose yourself, right? Like
Yes.
you're like, well, am I doing this right? Because
Yes.
you're getting the constant rejection, right?
Yes.
So at that point, you're kind of down already. So you're going in the interview with that kind of mindset is already like putting you behind other
Body
people,
language.
right?
I bet your body language portrays that.
Right.
All right.
So we get on the call, and
Yes.
and in my mind, I'm like, he's taking the time during a work day to schedule an hour-long call with
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know what I did to get to here, but you know, let's get on the call. So we get on the call, and then he kind of, so I told him about myself, and he's like, well, he looked at my resume, he's like, you're doing everything right? But I was starting to lose that. I thought I was doing everything wrong.
So there's that reaffirmation. That was just
Right?
nice to hear that.
So
Yeah.
it is nice to hear, right? So he's like, well, you're doing everything right. You're getting the certification. You're doing everything. Another thing you did right was reaching out to him, and
Yeah.
you know, so from there, we had that conversation. He was like, send me your resume. I sent him my resume, and he took the time to edit my resume. He made notes.
Yeah.
He's like, here are the notes. Fix this. Send it back to me, and also send it to the guy at Booz. So if you see something, we can refer you to that position.
So boom, boom, boom. So it's all like this train of intro, and then people dropping out, but then staying in touch and following up. It's good,
Yep.
and then being open to receiving feedback. Like, you could have been like, "Oh, this dude telling me to change my resume. Who is this?" But it's more so
Yeah.
like, "Thank you for that. That you had that attitude of gratitude." And
Yeah.
you're like, "Okay, I'll switch it up." And da da da. So it seemed like it was working out. When did it, like, you know, the success part, like, right? You know what happened?
So right after this call, right, my mindset kind of changed, right? Because now, like, I hear from somebody like, "Hey, you're doing everything right. Like,
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
it's just a matter, it's just a matter of time
feels
when
good.
you know
Yeah.
it's your time." But at the same time, like I knew like what I was capable of, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing everything right, right? Like I was doing so I was just waiting for those interviews to actually like
Yeah.
come to it. And then, I was ready because I did interview prep,
Yep.
right? I'd studied for certifications,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
um
So you're like I said, you were getting ready, so you were staying ready because you didn't instead of getting ready,
yeah.
you were just ready.
So my resume was ready, right? And
Yeah.
I had multiple different like formats of it because I was like testing the water
Yeah.
with them, right? So
Yeah. Good.
then then right after that call, like 2 weeks later, I had those interviews. And I had 3 interviews,
Yeah.
right? And I ended up getting an offer from all three,
There you go.
right? And two of them were full time. One was an internship into full time,
Yeah.
right? And then I looked into the companies and, well, actually, from the interview part, the interviews that I had, that one interview with Maximus just stood out just because of the conversation we had and the
Yeah.
manager. So they took the time to bring in the whole team to interview me, right? It was 8 people in the interview. And I tell like my manager and like my
Yeah.
like
That
whole
that
PM,
sense of
I was like,
belonging that made you. Was it in person? You had to
no,
go.
it was online. So
So you still having these online things. I wish I like in person. I feel like I lose body language and stuff. Like, like to me, like we're right now, we're in real life,
yeah,
like, I mean, I guess you have to do what you got to do, but like just, it's harder to read bodies and definitely in an in-person interview, you see people writing things down or shaking their head. You're like, oh, I'm killing it. Right.
yeah.
So like, but you got that vibe. How did you get that vibe that you were doing well in the Maximus thing in a virtual? Like you saw
Well,
them shaking their head or
well,
what?
no. So their cameras were off.
Oh, that's wild. I don't
Because-
like,
because- no,
Did you keep yours on?
I kept my own.
Okay, cool. Hello, Positive Filter listeners. We were just taking a really quick break. It was a great episode. As you can see, we were in the middle of Mussadiq's story about his interview, and we'll be back. But in the interim, please make sure to connect, follow, like, and subscribe Positive Filter. Enjoy. So we were in the middle of the interview. You said that all their cameras are off, but you were vibing. It was a good time, and you got the job. I think that's pretty much a good story. So one thing I want to think about now that you got the job, you and it's a Fran, right? How you pronounce the name?
Afnan?
Afnan. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Afnan. I'd be murdering it. I don't even know how to spell my own name. You and him connected and said, you know what? It's time for me to get back to the community. I want to get right back to that story because now you got it. Your success. You got a job. Kudos to you. You're doing it. What was the impetus for you to start? Doing the workshops, and you don't have to do this. Like, he's being really modest. He connected with recently the AI club and cybersecurity club and all that, and they did like a 50-person panel this spring. You're just doing these things to get back and have panelists and talk about resume techniques. Take us to that. Why do y'all start doing that? You and your friend.
Yeah. So actually, so it kind of ties back to the guy who took the time to like work with me. That 1 hour he spent with me, just he didn't get anything out of it, right? He just did that out of kindness. Like he was like, well, I want to give back, if I can help him. And he did help, right? Like he had the positive reinforcement. And then even now, like time to time, I reach out to him. I'm like, big decisions. I'm like, well, like, and he's like, I don't know how I would do this, but
It's almost like a mentorship relationship.
yeah, and then I can reach out to, like, he always connects me to somebody anytime I need it.
He's a connector.
Right?
Yeah.
He's a connector, and he's very big in the cybersecurity space too. So from there, what that started it, right? But then I also saw that there was a lot going on. People were not finding jobs. It was getting difficult. And
the world.
it's
like the world. Yeah.
it was really bad. And I was like, well, like if I can help one person, why not, right? Because I just went through this. So actually from there, I did help a person, right? And I was sharing the resources and everything, and they were like, well, these are great resources. Why don't you share them with everybody?
Reach one, teach one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, like, how would I do that? And then he was like, you can start posting these on like LinkedIn. Like these are free documents. So I was like, well, let's start with that then, right? So I posted one. It was like security interview questions, right? Like if you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, these are some of the questions that I was asked in different interviews that these are like all the same. So started with that, and then a lot more people started reaching out to me. They were like, hey, like, how do we do this? How do we get in, right?
Yep.
And then from there, I was like, well, a lot of these people are asking the same questions. Why don't I just, you know,
Do a webinar, put it together.
like why don't I ask people who know the answers to this, right? So that's why I started asking questions like, hey, like how do you do this, or
So
how do
you're becoming the connector.
yeah, and then from there, like I was like, well, I want to do something for the community just to get people face to face, right?
Yep.
So last year, with another a Mason alum, he's a Mason alum too, and he's very big in the community. I reached out to him, and we were just talking actually, and he was like, well, let's do this, and I was like, I don't have the space. He's like, well, I can find us the space. So he found us the space, and then we reached out to a few people. He knew. I reached out to a few people that I knew. It was like mainly some friends, right?
Yeah,
And they all took the time to like. Majority of them Mason alums again, right? So they took the time to, you know, we had tables set up, and you know, people made lines. We had 80 people sign up for that, and 120 people showed up.
Oh, more than okay.
Yeah, and so we weren't checking like who came in, and then we had like I think we had 25 professionals for that one, and it was different industries all over, lawyer, engineers.
Yeah, because what community this was for? What community was this for?
This was a local Muslim community.
Yeah, so like, boom, that's your identity. You're helping them. And also, I was thinking about this. I don't know if you thought about this, but like, you realize that servant mindset. I don't know if that's very, you know, it's like, you know, if you think about real Christianity, servants of all, but that service is a very Islamic thought too.
Yeah.
We serve, like, if we get a blessing, the blessing is supposed to be passed on.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I didn't get nowhere by myself, and that's how you do it. But I was thinking about your story as a kid. Even when you were doing well in math, you always taught other people. So I feel like that's kind of like in the root, man. You might, I don't know, you might get tapped to be a professor or something. I don't know, because you like to teach and help other people. But yeah, I don't know. I just saw that pattern, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, actually, I think about that, right? And I grew up with my grandfather a lot more, and he was a very prominent figure in the community.
Yes.
I grew up in Pakistan, right? So he would, I would see him help a lot of people, right?
Yes.
However it was, a lot of people would come to him to just advice or whatever it might be, and he would take me around with him to like different places, right? Like it was like
the man of the community, man.
Yeah, it was like I guess you could say he was my mentor, right? In a lot of ways. So I saw him growing up and what he was doing, and that kind of was like, okay, like, you know, when the time came, I could do it. I started doing that, right? So so we did that event, right? It was a very successful event, right? But obviously it was the first event, so there's a lot of things that went right, a lot of things that we learned from, right? So we saw that it was a lot more people in lines for people who were in like cloud tech. So it was longer lines for that. People waited around too long to talk to people.
So you realized that like, this was cross industry, but the community was telling you they were really interested in that part rather than, you know, the lawyer and all that. They were really gravitating to the tech stuff.
Yeah. And we also saw like a lot of people that had that imposter syndrome, right? Like everybody's like, are we good enough? Like
young and old, huh?
Yeah.
Different ages.
It was broad. Like it was like, are we good enough? Like everybody was kind of questioning that. Like why aren't we getting these roles? Or, you know, like am I good enough for these roles, right? So I think talking to them, and also like I was hearing from different people who were at the event, just the people that I brought, like that we brought as a community, right? They took the time. So we did this event Friday night. Saturday and Sunday, people were getting like, they were reaching out back and forth, doing resumes, right? So one of the guys, he took Saturday and Sunday, and he fixed people's resume both days. Yeah. He took the time on his weekend. He did people's resume.
Connector. Yeah.
Another person was like, well, I didn't get to talk to them. And then he got on a call with that person and was like, here's how I can help, right? So he took the time on his weekend to talk to somebody about just giving them, like, you know, just talking about how they could break into cybersecurity, right? So it went really well. And then from there, I got connected with the Maximus recruiter.
Yeah.
Right. Floor.
Yeah.
You know her, right?
Yeah, I know her. You know, I know her, right?
Yeah.
Small world. Yeah. She was on my podcast a long time ago. We're in Eastern Ace together, so
yeah.
It's all world. The world is really small.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So I got connected with her. I was like, hey, I know like Maximus is going at Mason for career fair. I would love to, you know, volunteer. So I came in last year as my first year, and I helped her, you know, just talk about Maximus and what it did for me, and, you know, what services we offer.
And that's when we saw each other,
right? No, this was last year.
Yeah, I thought we met each other last year.
No, we didn't. We We met. Ifnan was the one who connected us. We had like a
I
phone
saw you at a
call.
fair though. Was that this fall fair? That was the spring
It was
one.
this spring one this year.
Oh man, these
Yeah.
all melt together.
Yeah.
I was like, I knew I saw you at the fair, and I think you had that hat on too. I was like, that
Yeah.
was fresh. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
you're just coming back to the Mason
right,
community.
and then from there, like foresaw that like I really enjoy this type of work. So she reached out with other workshops that she was doing at Mason. There was like a I believe it was interview prep workshop that
Yeah.
she did. And she was like, "Well, would you want to be on there?" I was like, "Yeah." And it was a virtual one, right? So I got on there. We talked about how to prepare for interviews. Like I went through that process, right? Like recently too. It wasn't
Yeah.
that long ago. So I know what to do to kind
Yeah.
of get yourself ready. So she had the documents because she's already like, working in HR and she knows what she wants in a candidate. So she went over just the broad information about how to get ready. We spoke about our experiences and then we did that. Then there was actually I think it was the mixer that you hosted. It got postponed. There was something like this
The
happening.
graduate one, the graduate student one.
Yeah, it got canceled due to government shutdown or something.
Oh no, yeah, maybe it's a federal thing. There was a federal one too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she invited me to that, but it got canceled, so I couldn't make it to that. But then from there, I was like, well, I want to do what I did last year, like the networking thing, but at a bigger scale. And I could not find anybody who could like help with that, right? So I was like talking to people. I was like, well, I need space. I don't have space, but I could do the rest of the work. I just need like actual place to host this. And then from there, like I talked to Ifnan at one of my friend's birthday, and he's like, well, like I know some people at Mason because he's very involved in the community too, right?
Yep.
He was the founder of that the Patriot Hack.
Patriot Hacks, yeah.
Right. And then he's also worked with like other clubs. So he was like, well, I can reach out to somebody. So he reached out to somebody and that's how we got connected with you.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they were like, hey, talk to him. And then we scheduled that call. And then from there, like we spoke and then
you got connected with the clubs and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things I'm hearing, one is I think the real world is the connector part, right? It's beyond just the knowledge. It's about building relationships and seeing how they're all intersected and this person knows this person and this person. And then another thing I'm thinking about is the agency and confidence. Like when you got on the call with me, like I told you, I was like, I ain't no big dog, but I can find I had the agency to connect you with some people, right? And so I don't feel like I have to overpromise. I could just be myself and connect and connect and connect, and that's a lot more freeing, especially for people like they're scared to to reach out to people. Like just reach out, not with the mindset they're gonna get a job, but just be resourceful for each other, and it takes a lot of pressure. So I think I want to ask one more question, and then we'll go to my last segment of my show. Like beyond, so you got the comps, you got the Security Plus. Go back, like what would be one real concrete, non-technical thing you would tell an active job seeker they can work on? And I know I know where you might go with this, but like besides like, okay, get your certifications, know your stuff. What would be one non-technical thing you would tell someone to work on?
Networking.
That's it.
Right. I mean, it wasn't really networking. I just kind of reached out to the person, right? But I'm seeing the power of networking right now, right?
Yeah.
You saw the event we did. It was 40 professionals, and then we had like 200 students, right? And then I brought a recruiter. It was like one recruiter.
Yeah.
And I was able to connect the two, but it was mainly like people talking to each other. They got a lot out of it, right?
Yeah.
Usually, like you were there for some of the conversation. There was like incredible conversations that were happening, and a lot of people connected. And well, one person connected with the recruiter, and the recruiter got him in an interview process, right? It's just the networking goes a long way. And over the past weekend, I was also at a conference, and we were doing like resumes, and people were there for networking part, but they were there to enjoy the conference. There was like a lot of talks, and a lot of that was going on, but they put themselves in that environment where they want to be. Like this was the environment where they knew they were going to meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
And there was going to be some sort of, they didn't go in looking for a job, but something like that could have came out of it, right? Because there was a hiring village that I was a part of, and, we were doing resume workshops and doing coaching, and, they were doing live interviews because, companies came in with actual job openings. So networking is going to be like the biggest thing.
Building
I'll say.
relationships, and I
Yeah.
think one of the things you said, like networking, is also like I love that. It's like you have to be in the spaces to connect with people, and you can't be in like, and I mean, I guess now in this world it could be virtual spaces or in person, but
Yeah.
you gotta be
Yeah.
be in those spaces. Like
Yep.
you gotta get yourself out there, to build relationships. You can't build like relationships in isolation. So like get yourself, go to places,
Mhm.
be outside technically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you get opportunities to even learn. You might
Yeah.
not know something that you
Yeah.
just learned, right? Like, and
So
you
it's not
connect
always
with
opportunistic. It could be also just a learning.
just learning. I mean,
Yeah.
I know. Last year I went to the same conference at Mason actually. Nova. It was B-sides Nova.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
went there for just the learning aspect of it. I knew they had workshops and all this
Yeah.
stuff going on. And I went in just to attend workshops. And then from there, I met a few people, right? And one of the personnel that I met at that conference was one of the speakers at the networking event we did,
Oh, connections.
right?
Yeah.
So it's and then through him I met a ton of people over this weekend too, right? So like
The world is a bubble. If you see these people are connected.
it's very connected. Like cybersecurity, you might think is a very big space, but it's not. It's like a very small space, but it's a very welcoming space where people are like, hey, how can I help you? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to learn this? Yeah, like let me show you how to do this, right? It's not never like, oh, like this is a trade secret. It's
Yeah.
they people love mentoring, people love to give back, people love to teach other people. So it's very like it's a small community, but you're always welcome to join it, right?
Yeah. Reach one, teach one.
Yeah.
I love it. So this is the part of the show called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
I'll go first.
Okay. What's your random question?
So what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Right, like
Oh.
you do a lot for the community too. Like you downplayed that part, right?
Nah.
Like you're the unofficial mayor
Unofficial.
of Mason, right?
I really say the generic answer is I think helping people makes me feel good about myself because like it is reaffirming altruism. Like when you help someone and they say because of your help I did this and this, I feel like I had a purpose. It sounds selfish, but it gasses me up because I'm like, dang, I was useful, or I make a difference, and so that's one reason. Two, I think why I do what I do, it makes me happy to belong. So like I use that joke, the unofficial mayor of Mason, but like it is a reaffirming thing where you can walk around and someone say, "What's up, Phil? What's up?" And like I feed off of that. I'm an extrovert, and so I think that belonging is really critical, right? Like when you feel like you're meant to be somewhere, you feel good about yourself, and I know that's all like kind of me intrinsic. But then I think it's also like it permeates outside of myself because like if I feel good about myself and then I help other people, it's a win-win, right? Like, and I really do believe in this mindset that like we all can win. There's enough abundance, like I love that you said there's no gatekeeping. Like if you got put on and you did well and I contributed to your success, I feel like I did something. I use this one line and it sounds corny, but I say it all the time, is that like, if I could be a sentence in the book of your life, I made it. Meaning, like, if you wrote a whole book and then you had like one sentence, like, and then at George Mason, Philip Wilkerson helped me, chapter whatever, and then he went to the next chapter, I'd buy that book and be like, look, I got a shout out in someone's book. I'd be like hyped, like I don't know what, because it just makes me feel good about myself. So my why is, it makes me feel good, like straight up, and I think also another why is I think it's a good example for my kids. I want them to have the mindset that real success is not, how much money or whatever. I think real success, and I want my kids to see this, is like, what kind of positive impact did you leave on others? Because, I think you say your grandfather, my grandfather did it, my dad does it, my mom does it. That's like, when I look at their success as people, it was more so helping others, and so I think that's kind of where my why is, kind of roundabout way. And also being unofficial mayor sounds cool. All right, so I see you got a Yankees cap. I don't know, like there's a splash. Some people say I just like how the colors splash. If that's not your real team, what is your real team in real sport that you really watch?
I I watch football.
Okay, yeah,
Right. Huge. I like to play a lot more than I like to watch.
yeah,
And there's not like a particular team, but I started watching. So like I said, I moved to US, right? Like
yes,
there's no football where I was, and
yeah.
then I started watching football, and it was the year that the Seahawks
Okay.
lost to the Patriots.
The the pick where
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch.
No, yeah.
He should have, they should have
Yeah.
thrown. Yeah,
And that was the year I was watching football, and that was the year I became a Seahawks fan.
there it is. And now you got there. You won a Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
hey, look at you. You came in the right time. It's kind of like my boy he's from Jamaica. When he came to America, the Cowboys are winning. Now he's stuck with Cowboys. I'm like, dang.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even the part like winning. It was just like the.
Well,
team,
you saw them.
like, I saw them lose.
Yeah, but
I
they was on
like,
a national screen. It was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying in the sense that like exposure, like they were the it team. Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
That does leave a mindset
Yeah.
on you. Like when you come in and you start. Let me phrase. For the longest time, my youngest, his team, his squad, when he started watching football, was the Chiefs. Because as he comes through his a development of liking the sport, who was winning? The Chiefs. Now he kind of likes the Commanders and the Chiefs. But it does leave like when you see who's doing it, and when you start to begin the sport, you're like, that's the team that's doing it, or like those memories.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck with them, and then they're not good no more. And then they come back, and you're like, I was
Yeah.
So.
No, it was a great year. I actually didn't even get to watch the Super Bowl. Like I only watched like the first half, but it was.
But then technically you would have been winning that time. If they just only cut the game at half, you'd have won. All right, so this is the part of the show called shout outs and plugs. You get to shout out anyone you want to show love to, and then plugs. These are things where like people use their website or the things that put in the show notes that follow up with you. So shout outs and plugs.
Can't think about it for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just too many people.
Just say shout out to everybody.
Shout out to everybody, honestly, because there's a lot of people who done the connecting, who want to be connected, right? Like I met so many people over the weekend where they were like, "Hey, we like." A lot of people isolate themselves, and we want them to be like, "No, this is not what we do. We want to bring them in, and we want to like mentor them." So I met so many people over the weekend where they're like, "We want to give back. How can we give back?" So it's like I think the more you give back, the more people you meet who want to give back. So it's like, shout out to everybody. Honestly.
Shout out to everybody. And then plugs where people can find you. Like this LinkedIn.
Active on LinkedIn if you're looking for somebody who to just connect with, or I can connect to other people, or if you just want to talk about cybersecurity, always.
I love it. Well, Positive Filter listeners, it's been a great episode. He definitely says what he's going to do. So if you feel you want to reach out, please do. As you know, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund. And additionally, if you're a member of the Mason Nation, please consider submitting a Pats for Patriots. Show kindness to someone else around the community. That's just a program I'm really happy about. As you know, every episode, please like, subscribe, share, elevate it, comment, whatever, to get this out to the world. Thank you so much for listening, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.